Welcome to ROI Blueprint, Mexico Edition, brought to you by Kodak Capital. Today, we have Alberto García with us. He is a seasoned professional with experience and background in tech, but he has since changed over to the real estate market here in the Riviera Maya. Alberto, before we get started, can you please give our audience a little background about who you are and what you do and what got you into the real estate market?
Sure. Like most people in the United States, they got tired of the bureaucracies in the United States and decided to, pack a suitcase and move to Mexico, right? My family has been here in the Riviera Maya since 1996. My mom's company opened in 1996, Muller Properties. So real estate's kind of been there in the past 30 years inadvertently as not collateral damage, but I've been inadvertently involved with it here and there. And I moved here. I drove here actually from Austin, Texas. It was a 5-day drive with a 5-year-old and a Rottweiler.
Oh my goodness.
It was hardcore.
Okay.
So, I started investing with my mom, and she obviously has lots of investments in the region. Mm-hmm. So, she believes in this area. She said, come down here, get out of the tech field, come open real estate with us in the Riviera Maya. And I said, okay.
All right. That's what's up. So now you're here and you are working with your mom at Muller Properties, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So how has that experience been so far? And, the market here in the Riviera Maya has changed quite a bit over the last few years, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And what does that look like for investors right now? And how has it changed for them?
Well, the market used to be a lot more of a cash market, right? Back in the day, people that had money were buying down here. There weren't any financing options. There weren't really developers doing financing options either. It was mostly, 30% down, 70% of delivery kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. That was the only real financing around in this region. Now there's banks investing and stuff like that down here. But, the market changed from being upper tier investors, that people had $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 in cash, surplus cash, to the middle income families, low middle income families could actually start investing down here because the price tags dropped so much, right? So the units used to be 120, 130 square meters. They dropped to 35 square meters, 40 square meters. So the cost per square meter is a lot less and more people were involved in investing down here. So I think in the past 10 years, we opened the doors for smaller first-time investors to be able to invest because the price ticket lowered a lot. Okay. That's one of the main differences, I think.
So with that adjustment, is that more of a positive change, you want to say, or negative? What perspective can we look at it from?
Well, to be completely transparent, I think it was a negative, right? I think what happened was we had an oversaturation of studios and 1-bedrooms in the region. Mm-hmm. I think you had a lot of unlicensed real estate agents down here and agencies down here selling false promises. And I said this a couple of days ago. I did another a YouTube video, and it's not 100% the real estate agent's fault, right? It's really the investor's fault for not truly vetting who they're doing business with and wanting to believe the BS and the hype that was being sold to them when they bought. When someone says, I'm going to sell you a studio for $99,000, I'm going to give you 25% return on your investment on a year-on-year basis, you need to say why. There needs to be red flags. You can't just be, if you're a real astute investor, you know what you're doing. You'll never do that, which is why the high-end investors, the vetted investors, the family offices, they didn't buy studios because they knew it wasn't a real deal. What happened was the unexperienced investors, the first-time investors that didn't know anything better, they fell for that. Hook, line, and sinker. So now we have a situation in Tulum where everybody's talking negatively about Tulum because of the undelivered condos. And it wasn't really the developer's fault. It was based on the investors that were putting money in this region and buying condos. For example, you have a developer that has 80% studios in their inventory, 10% 1-bedrooms and 10% 2-bedrooms, and they're stuck with that 80% because nobody's buying them, right? So it kind of, I think it was a negative impact. It kind of went, like I say, 50-50, investors' fault and the region's fault the real estate agent's fault for pushing these products that just weren't doing things, and they were promising stuff like, if you buy now in pre-construction, I'll help you resell it and you'll make your money back. Just so many bait and switch type of things that it shouldn't have been that way, but things have changed a lot. A lot of laws have been put into place. Real estate licenses are now being implemented and now being enforced. There's a lot of banks being, looked at now for money laundering purposes, for developers not paying their taxes. A lot of things have changed. It's still the wild, wild west. When I talk about how much money you can make, because this is the perfect timing still to buy and make a lot of money in the long run. But the wild, wild west of getting around taxes, getting around evading government, and evading the rules and regulations should have been doing, that's what's been changing, which is a good thing.
Okay. Yeah. So from your perspective, then yes, you have your own agency, you have your own business and everything like that. How do you advise these investors when they come to you? And what's the best way to steer them in this market?
Well, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, right? I ask my investors, are you looking for a short-term return? You looking for cash flow? You looking for equity? You want to buy and hold like a 401k for the next 10 years? Are you looking for 2, 5, or 10-year returns? And what type of returns? If you're looking for cash flow, then I say you're not going to buy in Tulum right now.
Right.
You're going to buy somewhere like in Playa. You're going to buy somewhere in Cancun because you can have more occupancy percentages there year round.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really a proper discovery. You talk with your investors to find out what they're trying to do. And with that discovery, we have enough product in this region to fit any type of investor's needs. Whether you're the high end 50, 60, 80, $100 million investor looking for a long-term hold to make some really big money, or if you're looking for a smaller investment to get your feet wet and get some kind of equity in the next 2 to 5 years. And we have it all in this region. So it's really just questions.
Yeah. So that's great. Like asking the right questions and helping them define what it is that they need and what their goals are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's really important.
And another key thing I think that makes a big difference is we don't have commission breath at Muller Properties. My life isn't revolving around the fact that whether I sell you or not, right? I don't need to sell you. You want to buy something. Yeah. There's a difference, right? So if you want to buy something, I'm going to sell you something, but I'm not going to chase you down. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to sharp angle close you. I'm going to try to figure out a way to get money out of your pocket. The idea is, if you're ready, let's go. If you're not, it's going to be okay. You're just going to kick yourself later for not doing it now. And also another really important factor that I like to mention is Mexico as a whole is coming up as a country. So it's not just about the Riviera Maya or, the Yucatan Peninsula. It's really Mexico in general with nearshoring. Cost of labor here is a lot less. You have huge manufacturers coming to Mexico now. You have Teslas in Mexico, Amazon in Mexico. And then a really key factor, I believe, that's going to put Mexico even more on the map is we've all heard of the Panama Canal. We all know the Panama Canal it's a huge shipping area. It's big money. I mean, there's enough money that the United States actually took it over, owned it, sold it back to Panama. There's debates on who should control it because it's a big point. Right. Because it's a lot of commerce that goes through there. Well, I don't know if you knew this or not. It takes about 3.5 months for your ship to wait in line before you can go across the Panama Canal. You actually literally park outside of the Panama Canal, you anchor down, and you wait your turn. And that's huge money just burning into the air. Because why? Because it's time between the shipment and the receiving to the end user, which then imposes more taxes, imposes more cost, and we end up paying that as a consumer in the long run. So Mexico has now a new train system. We all heard about the Mayan train. The Mayan train is connectivity to the entire Yucatan Peninsula, connecting all these different towns, try to bring tourism to the entire region, right? Well, that train also connects to a CIIS. This train, international train, goes from the Pacific coast to the Gulf of Mexico. This is an industrial train track. It's used to not compete with the Panama Canal, but to take the surplus, the overflow of the extra stuff that's happening there and try to alleviate, almost like a levee, right? To alleviate some of that overflow damage, and people can start using the train to cross their products across Mexico, which also brings more taxes, also brings more, importation taxes for Mexico. It's a big deal. So Mexico as a whole is coming up as far as cost of living, cost of transactions, with NAFTA. I mean, everything in Mexico in general it's actually a positive thing. So Mexico as a whole, whether you invest here or inner Mexico or outside of Mexico, it's going to be a world power, not military wise, but commerce wise. It'll be a world power in the next, let's say, 10 to 15 years.
And investment wise and everything. Yeah. It's a smart play, basically.
Big time. Big time.
Absolutely. Okay. So you've made some very compelling points about why Mexico is the smart play, right? But for an investor who's a bit more timid and let me just play devil's advocate for a second here. What are the risks? Like, isn't it risky for some people or can be risky?
There's a lot of risks.
Okay.
There's a lot of risks in Mexico. It's not all, butterflies and rainbows.
Okay.
It's, unfortunately, there's scam artists everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's not more in Mexico than there are anywhere else in the world, by the way. I'm not saying that, but there are a lot more complications that you could be unsure of or unknowledgeable enough of that you're relying on a real estate agent to give you these types of details. For example, a simple example, there's 2 types of land in Mexico, right? There's deeded entitled land and then there's ejido land. right? Ejido land, if you don't know what that is, it's government gifted land to native Mexicans. And it was given to them a long time ago, right? And it's not given to one person. It's actually a group of people. It's a committee of people that own this land. It was given to them to actually do farming, to farm the land in Mexico for themselves, to live agriculture for themselves. And what happens is you'll have, let's say, 50 owners to one parcel of land. We're talking about a parcel being 1,000 acres, by the way, okay? Not like 10 feet or something. And within that 1,000 acres, you've got 50 owners, and 3 of those owners met some investor that wants to buy some land. And they say, you know what? Hey, we're going to sell you our land. This is our piece. Since there's 1,000 acres, we're 3, that's a percentage of that 1,000. We own 10. We're going to sell those to you. And you as an investor unknowingly trust them because they show you the plans, they show you the diagrams, they show that they own the land, they have their names on the list and everything. But in the end, you can't go to closing, you can't get a deed and title. And on top of that, they can't even pass you the rights because you're not a Mexican. Right? The legal process of those types of lands is, first of all, if you're going to deed and title ejido land, they all have to come together and agree to the new agreement saying, you know what, let's all sell our land together. Then they have to apply for that permit with the government. They can't just decide to sell their land. They have to apply for a permit with the government saying, okay, the government, Mr. and Mrs. Government, we are willing to give up our gifted land. We want to sell it. Can you please give us permission? And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Let's say they get permission. Well, once that happens, they have to get what's called a desincorporación. And that desincorporación is a legal process that can only happen with a Mexican national. It can't be a foreigner. You can't even use a Mexican company to do this. It has to be rights relinquished to another Mexican. And that Mexican then goes to the municipality office, files for it, and then gets a deed and title. And then it can be sold through a notary to a foreigner. All that process, nobody knows that process. They have no clue. And they've given money and that person disappeared. Or they've given money and they start building. There's been situations where the investor starts building on the land. And when they finally go to register and file for a condo regime to start individually titling the property, they can't. And they have to actually literally abandon the development and give the money back to people that have already invested. And they've lost their property. They literally got scammed. So it's not knowing what you're getting into. It's super important to understand who the developer is, where's their money coming from, how are they financing this, are they building based on the pre-construction sales, or are they building based on they have a bridge loan with the bank, or they have their own deep pockets, or they have family offices, or they have money, investors to build this, whether you buy or not, they're still going to build. And these are things that are super, super important for the new investor, for a savvy investor, because even the old school investors have been framboozled, unfortunately, on situations like this. So Mexico, it's a risk if you don't know what you're doing. It's a risk if you don't find a licensed real estate agency that's been here for a long time. It's not a risk if you do your due diligence. If you do your due diligence, you're going to find absolutely amazing opportunities.
So again, it really goes back to, the investors taking the ownership and actually doing the work on their end before they jump into the market.
Yeah. I mean, so you have to have someone there. You can't expect to be someone from Toronto and know everything that's happening in the Riviera Maya, right? You have to trust somebody. So what you have to do, what's on you as an investor is you need to be able to vet the proper real estate agency that's going to have your best concerns in mind, not just try to sell you another condo.
So you just mentioned Toronto. I kind of want to shift gear a little bit. So cities like Toronto, New York, Miami, these are like major cities that people, when they hear about investments, that's where they want to go, right? How are those markets really shifting and really affecting investment as a whole right now for the savvy investors and the novice investors?
I don't invest in those areas because I don't want to pay the taxes that are obscene. By the way, you're only going to pay $100 for every 100,000 in Mexico. So in your property taxes up there, first of all, taxes are nuts. But what's happening now is people are getting mortgages on $1 million condo in Toronto and they can't sell it for $600,000. They're upside down $300,000 and they can't give it away with the interest rates that are happening up there. Or they're doing HELOCs and they're getting loans based on the perceived equity, refinancing it and getting $1 million loan on it to make $50 a month on a 40-unit building. They're making $50 per building, per unit. So the amount of money they're making, even on refurbished, the new laws in Canada, they're actually taxing on perceived gains now, right? So let's say, for example, you are buying a refurb and you're going to try to you buy it at $50,000. and you're going to sell it at 100,000. Well, when you buy 50 grand, they're actually looking at charging you taxes on the 50 when you used to not pay tax on that 50 on that extra.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things on taxes, on investments, on return on your investment, your cash flow. It's just not what it used to be. It's just not what it used to be.
So when it comes to those blue chip cities, then like essentially the ROI right now isn't really there.
3, 4, 5%. You better money in a money market fund than doing that, than doing real estate.
Okay. So kind of takes us back to why Mexico is now, I think when we were talking off camera, we were talking about the Wild Wild West at this point, right? Yep. So with all that being said, pretty much what you're saying is Mexico is the smart ROI play right now. It
is. I mean, there are good opportunities everywhere, right? They're just not as good as they used to be, right? Not to beat a dead horse. Miami, for example, is about to have the biggest drop in real estate value that's ever had in the next year or so. They're going to drop 30-40%, which is crazy for those guys. So in Mexico, and specifically in this region of Mexico, there's still really good opportunities where you can get involved in the ground floor. You know, this is going to sound terrible for the environmentalists or people that don't like, gentrification, stuff like that. But if you look at the Florida coast from like Fort Lauderdale down to Miami, it's super populated. Like if you look at an aerial Google Maps of it, there's roads everywhere. It's all populated. It's built. If you take that exact same distance and you cut and paste it onto the Riviera Maya from Cancun to Bacalar, we're at like 18% developed. Okay. I'm not saying we're going to destroy the jungle and make it a concrete wonderland. I understand that angle that people are going to try to attack us on, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you still have an opportunity to make a difference. You can still buy land in the outskirts of Tulum. You can buy land in the outskirts of Playa del Carmen, not necessarily in the city, and you can buy it on pennies on the dollar. Right. Great example that I can give you. In 2021, I believe it was, when the road Kukulkan was completed. I believe it was 2021. Yep. Kukulkan, if you don't know what that is, for the people that are watching, there's 2 roads in Tulum that take you to the beach right now. There used to only be one. It was Coba. And Coba was the only way to get to the beach in Tulum was through Coba. And there was another road called Kukulkan that went about halfway down and it stopped. Because the people that owned the land down there, there's a huge family out of Merida that owned that land down there, that's now at Soy Tulum. They weren't allowing the government to connect the road down there, right? They made a deal that I could tell you off camera what they did with them, and they made a deal with the government and they connected that road. So what happened is, people that owned in Region 15 owned no man's land, because if you bought in Region 15, you had to go up the road to the highway, go back across the highway, cut back down Coba to go to the beach. It's a big pain in the butt. So you're getting your land for like $15 a square meter, right, in Region 15. The moment that road was connected to the beach, Region 15 went from $15 a square meter to $350 a square meter. Wow. Like literally within 6 months. People that bought in 2017, 2018 had acres out there, hectares out there. They made millions because everybody's building in Region 15 now. And funny story for you. This is a true story. A buddy of mine, Luis Miguel, and I were chatting the other day, and he used to work, he was the bar manager over at Senzi in Playa del Carmen. And he told me that there used to be a waiter there. And this waiter, I vaguely remember this guy. We're talking about in 2008, 2009, a long time ago. And this guy said, hey, my family has come on some hard times. We have a hectare in Region 15, and we're willing to sell it for 220,000 pesos. And this is a hectare. This is 10,000 square meters, right? This is a big piece of land. But we were both like, dude, who wants to buy anything in Region 15? It's the middle of nowhere, and 200,000 pesos, I can find other things to do with 220,000 pesos. Well, fast forward, 6 years later, that was millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars that was in our hands. And we just didn't have the foresight, to look at that and think of change and stuff like that. So there are still opportunities like that in the Riviera Maya. There are still opportunities like that in pre-construction, and you're not too late. That's the biggest thing I want to make sure and emphasize to people. Okay. So for investors who are coming in who have this one size fit all kind of mentality, and they're just thinking that they can plug and play, or they're taking what the game plan that they've had for this market to this market, what are some of the things that you think that they're probably going to have to unlearn, or maybe they'll struggle to let go of or adapt to? Okay. Well, the first thing is there is no refi, right? There is no, let me buy a house, rebuild, get an equity loan from a bank, do it again, and create this long perpetual chain of, I'm $1 million in debt but I'm making $2 million a year in my Inc. It doesn't work that way in Mexico, right? You can't do that. Also, I run into a lot of situations where people say, well, back in the States, we do. Back in the States, it happens this way or that way. We're not in the States.
Yep.
There is no, title insurance. There is no insurance in your homes. You know, there's just a lot of things that we just don't have down here. Right. And it doesn't make it a bad thing. It's just, you have to get used to things are done differently here. Things are done differently here. It's not the same as that is back home. You're going to have greater opportunities, but you have to realize that you can't just do everything. You can't bulldoze your way through because you have money. Yeah. There is a legal process, and that legal process is all through a notary. And if you don't like the notary, you're up the creek without an oar. You have to go through a notary, right? Yeah. So that's one of the things I think people need to unlearn is we're not in the United States anymore. We're not in Canada anymore. Stop saying it should be done this way because we're not in those countries. Yeah.
So I think you hit on a really key point because we see this quite a few, more often than not, really, when it comes to investors who are coming in like, but I have this cash, I have this money, I have this. And they're just expecting, because they have these things, for it to be done. But like you said, it doesn't work that way. Like you can't just come down here and throw money and think that, oh, it's going to be done for me. Like there's a whole process. So without getting into the nitty gritty and the details of it all, like what is the process that an investor can expect when they come down here and they're looking for something?
Okay. Number one, you need to find a good real estate agency.
Right. Okay.
And that's number one. Number two, you need to figure out what type of returns you want. You need to see, am I desperate for cash flow? Am I going to take money out of my money market account and reinvest it so I'm a long-term holder? Do I buy IBM stocks or do I buy crypto? You know, where are you? You know, in your mentality on your real investments down here, and then you need to drive around. You need to come here. You can do sight unseen, right? But based on your investment goals, you need to have a good portfolio of what is available in this region. So I think number one thing that you do is to find someone they can trust. They work with them, find the right properties, and then it goes from there. It's actually a very smooth process.
Okay, so let's kind of steer the ship to specifically Tulum area now. You know, we talked about the condos, the studios, and how the shift is making its way to larger residences, right? So what do you think the next wave of, design or investment is going to be? Like, are we moving towards branded residences, hotels, more Airbnbs, or something entirely different altogether?
This is obviously my humble opinion, right? Don't take it as gospel and go make investment choices. But I think branded residences it's a big deal. It's not just a trend, right? We're going to talk about wellness as well, just a minute as well. But branded residences, if you have two developments right next door to each other, same developer, okay, that's building houses. It's actually a case study in Cabo San Lucas, where you have the Ritz-Carlton development and you have Juan Garza's development right next door, right? Literally the same builder built both, but this one has the Ritz-Carlton name on it and this one has Juan Garza's name on it. Nobody knows who Juan Garza is. Great developer, by the way, great builder, great product, but this one's worth 30% more because it has Ritz's name on it, right? So it's a branded residence. People buy Louis Vuitton because of the name. They buy Gucci because of the name. Whether you are against it or for the brands and commercialization and capitalism, whatever you want to go on down that road, Rolex costs more than a Seiko. It just does, and that's the way it's going to be forever. That's the way people want to have that name recognition, and the trend in Tulum is going to be the branding residences. It's going to be the value. It's going to be the experiences. And what the experiences I'm talking about right now is wellness used to be it was like a fad. Right? Wellness was like the new vibe, the new thing to do. And it went from being a fad to being actually a way of life. After COVID, people being locked down, people started realizing that what they were doing already wasn't working for them anymore. And they realized how unfree it was like to be down in lockdown and how much more of the world they wanted to see. And people started thinking, hey, you know what? I need to take care of myself. I need more holistic, more wellness stuff. And true story, 2 kids out of college, graduate from college, tech degrees in college, 26 years old, didn't have a clue on what they're going to be doing with their new tech licenses, tech degrees. They went online, they found out that wellness was going to be, by the year 2030, a $7 trillion industry. and they bought a few acres of land in the middle of Texas. They bought these acres and they built 8 wellness retreat places. And they're going to put themselves into the wellness pool. That is what Tulum is going to be doing. That is Tulum. Tulum is retreat. Tulum is wellness, holistic, not the hippie, old school, I don't shower type of Tulum, right? Because it used to be like that back in this, it was terrible.
It's still kind of...
There were so many mosquitoes back then. Anyways, I came to Tulum like twice before 2010. And now it's becoming a hippie chic, right? And they even have like a term which is super overplayed, the Illuminati term. But that comes from the type of wealthy hippie. It's not the broke down, I drive a VW Bug, I've got no money hippie that plays the banjo on the beach with a bonfire. It's, I play the banjo on the beach with a bonfire and I got someone serving me lobster. Right? So it's a hippie chic type of setup. And the jungle chic is what the new trend is going to be in Tulum, and it has been in Tulum. People are still coming to Tulum. It's just not the same people that were coming before. It first was flooded by the younger crowds, the 20 to 30 year olds, the crypto traders, the younger people, the digital nomads. Families are starting to arrive now. People need places to stay for longer periods of time. People want a home to stay in. They want villas to stay in. They want 3-4 bedroom condos to stay in. They don't want to just come down and stay in a studio. It's not the same. So, is Tulum changing? Absolutely. Demographics have changed from single people, young couples to older families. The next big pivot where I see opportunity, if you're an investor, is you need to start looking to family-oriented activities in Tulum, because right now there is none. There really isn't anything for families to do in Tulum. You go to the ruins, they're rocks. They've been there for 900 years. They're going to still be here 1,000 years from now. That's not that cool for me personally. I'm sorry if you like rocks. But there aren't any family things to do in Tulum. So if you're going to start attracting families, you need to start thinking of maybe jungle parks, water parks, jungle excursions. The Jaguar Park is amazing. Having more beach accesses, having more family friendly beach clubs, not just I'm a disco dancer and I'm going to wear a bikini and I want to go drink a bunch of alcohol at Taboo. Right? It needs to be more interactive stuff. I thought, you know, it was going to be amazing with the school they're going to have in Silvazama that got shut down. They're not going to do it anymore. But that's, I think, the next really good opportunity for any type of investor. Open a bowling alley, buy some land and build a bowling alley. You know, silly stuff like that. Open up paddle courts, paddle stuff, things that families can do to start bringing families to live here in Tulum, not just visiting Tulum. And that's going to be the game changer for Tulum.
Oh, that's amazing. I feel like there are some developers here who are making that shift, like Amari. But, you know, recognizing the opportunity, like you said, and like being able to take it and run with it. Because, you know, as with any market, we're constantly evolving.
Absolutely.
And you kind of have to do that in order to stay relevant, right? And right now there are a lot of opportunities. It's a lot of ways for people to come in and really set the tone. And be the, you know, the maker of that area. See what goes from there.
Absolutely. Being the Christopher Columbus, so to speak.
I was trying to avoid that, but you know, it's okay.
Being the Christopher Columbus, the first one there, and seeing and surveying and seeing what's needed. And that's really the business 101, right? It's you find a problem and you present a solution, right? The problem is there's nothing here for this type of stuff, and here's my solution to it, right? So you got supply and demand.
Absolutely.
Someone that's actually doing a very good job of the next revolution or the next wave or the next way of thinking in Tulum is Amari. And I'm not trying to pat you on the back, but since I first got introduced to Amari through Eric back in the day, and then through the time of seeing Amari develop, Amari is creating a brand, and branded residences are an important thing in the region. And Amari is creating a wellness brand as well, and also a name for the wellness industry. So building villas is what I've been pushing people to do for a long time now. And that's what Amari's doing. And then Amari's taking that one step up and building even a bigger experience for not just the commoners like myself that can afford $700,000, but the elite that are 1.3, 1.4, $2 million investors that are much more astute, that look for a certain pampering, but still want to be jungle chic, which is exactly what Amari's doing. So that, in my opinion, Amari's fitting right into the revolution of jungle chic, wellness, and big enough homes people come down here on vacation in.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, you have to evolve. You have to keep going, you have to grow, and setting the trend, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. Alberto, we've covered so much, I feel like, and thank you so much for your knowledge and everything that you've shared. So before we wrap everything up, are there any final thoughts or words that you have for an investor that's looking to make that pivot from where they are now to emerging global markets like Mexico?
Yeah, do it now. I mean, seriously, do it now. I mean, why wait? You've already waited long enough. You've missed a lot of huge booms, you know, and it's in waves. And right now we're in the trough in Tulum. We're on the bottom side, and everyone always buys. I always tell you, old school, right? Buy low, sell high. We're in the low right now. You have a good opportunity to buy now, so you can sell high later. So, I mean, if you're looking at pivoting, look at your returns. Just look at that, and that should give you an answer whether to buy here or not.
That makes complete sense. All right. So for our listeners out there who are listening and watching, how can they connect with you and actually ask you the right questions to help them make the smart investments?
You can find me on Instagram. Okay. Alberto, I think it's Alberto A. Garcia _, on Instagram. It's more of a personal Instagram there. I talk about men's mental health, and I talk about wellness, and I talk about, stem cells and peptides and stuff like that, and also real estate. You can also find us on YouTube, Muller Properties. And you can also find us on Instagram, Muller Properties as well. And on TikTok, Muller Properties, and on TikTok, Alberto Garcia. So lots of options.
We'll put everything there in the bottom for you guys so you can watch it and get it all.
Yeah.
But again, Alberto, thank you so very much for this. It was a pleasure. It's always such a great conversation with you, and like being able to just absorb all the knowledge that you're giving us. So thank you. And for you guys out there, thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us and watching this amazing episode with Alberto. Remember to please like, subscribe, and add any comments. And if you have any questions or anything else that you're looking forward to seeing on the next episode, let us know below. Thank you. Hey guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this episode with us today. If you like what you saw, make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, and leave a comment and let us know what else you're looking forward to seeing in our next episode. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at ROI Blueprint. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.